I was doing a keto diet because a lot of research on the keto diet for cancer. And so I immediately started the keto diet. But then funny enough, for 6 months, I was doing that diet, and I found out after 6 months that my cancer has a BRAF mutation. That mutation actually feeds off of not only glucose, but it also will feed off of saturated fat. And unbeknownst to me, I thought I was doing the right thing, and I'm feeding my cancer with what it needs to grow. Fighting cancer is like one of the smartest things to do is figure out a way to starve it, right? If you can get it to not give the nutrients it needs to grow, then it can't grow within the body, and then you get your immune system to attack what's there. And that's what I've been able to do with my body, is get my immune system so strong that it's actually fighting the cancer now, so it doesn't have the chance to go anywhere else.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition. Welcome back to the Life in Transition podcast. Very excited to have with us today Rene. Rob, thank you again for joining us. Rob is a faith-based AI wellness futurist who right now is focused on the integration of holistic health and AI, artificial intelligence. Rob, most welcome to the Life in Transition podcast.
So excited to be here. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Rob. Jumping right in, what would you consider, Rob, to be one of the most impactful transitions that you've been through in your life?
Gosh, this is a fun show for me because I've been through a number of them, and I'm literally going through probably the third big transition in my life. And I've had I would say 3 major transitions in my life, and man, have they been crazy ones, and ones that I am blessed to be still here on this earth that I survived through some of them. But yeah, the first one was literally a physical 4x4 truck that hit me while I was running. And I was an athlete. I was in college, and I just made the U.S. junior team. I was at the height of my running career. I was like second best miler in the country and made the U.S. Junior team. Like I mentioned, I won an international race against 5 different other countries, and wow. I was on fire. And then that winter, I got hit by a 4x4 truck, and the 4x4 truck while I was running, and the 4x4 truck threw me 36 feet and landed on my face, and almost died that day. And it was pretty crazy. So obviously that transition was a weird one because, here I am in college doing what my life dream was to be a professional runner at that point. And all of a sudden, boom, in an instant, your life changes. And so I had to go through a major transition. Then it's like, okay, now everything that I had been working for 10 years is gone in a second. Now what? And so I've been through that.
I mean, you were in your late teens or early 20s, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, correct.
And at that point, how much of your identity would you say was tied up in being, an excellent amateur or professional athlete at that point?
Yeah, was, really large majority of my life, right? Mm-hmm. That was what I was focused on. Of course, I did have an awesome brother who was my mentor. He's 4 years older than I was, who really helped me understand that you need to have something to fall back on. So I did do well in school, and so I was in college, and I ended up having decent grades because of that. And so I had something to fall back on, thank God, right? But it was just everything else was focused on that. I mean, right. I wake up in the morning, I focus on what can I do to be a better runner, right? What do I eat? Everything that I did was for that goal, was to be a professional runner. So that my identity was that.
And when you
then I'll have it swooped away in an instant was life transforming for sure.
I'm sure. I assume with that type of impact, you're probably unconscious as well. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah,
Right.
and that was the part that was pretty scary. Is it knocked me unconscious, and this whole side of my face was broke. It was split open and broken, and I literally had a bloody nose, and my throat was clogged, so I wasn't breathing. So not only was I
When they came
unconscious, but I couldn't breathe either.
So the first of the ABCs of triage medicine was blocked. Airways.
If it wasn't for my friend being there and knowing that I had that bloody nose, he could tell I wasn't breathing, and if he wouldn't have unclogged my throat, I wouldn't be here today. Right. Wow. So it was like a miracle that he was able to do that, and then gave me at least enough oxygen to survive while the paramedics got there and woke me up with their smelling salts. So, this is like, it was pretty traumatic experience.
So when in that process, after they woke you up with the smelling salts, did you realize that you may not be able to be a professional runner anymore?
Well, yeah, obviously at the immediate time, I was like, what the heck's going on? Where am I? What am I doing? Why am I freezing, laying on the ground? And my body was in shock, obviously. And it took a while, but the next few days were when it really started to seep in, right? It was like when you're in the hospital and everything hurts and you're on tons of medication and man, I remember what the most devastating part for me was the second day in the hospital. Was the first time that I'd had a mirror, and I looked at my face at the time, and my face was just ginormous, because they literally had to do reconstructive surgery on my whole side of my face, and I thought I looked like the Elephant Man, and I literally zero disrespect for people who have deformities, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to look like this the rest of my life. And I started bawling. And even today, like literally right now, that same emotion comes back. It's just like so raw. And it's like, I'm going to look like this for the rest of my life, and no one's going to love me. That was the initial trauma from that was emotional, right? Obviously physical trauma, but that emotional trauma, it's so deep that I'm tearing up right now just thinking about that particular emotion. Was so hard. It was like, wow, this is my new existence, and thank God that I was able to. I had great friends and family and people who loved me, who supported me and got me through that devastation. But man, it was tough. It was really
but that
tough.
Was the first thought. Wasn't even so much. It's even more existential than your identity as a runner. Was just as a human being, I'm not going to be lovable.
I just am
not
look
like
the same.
This, and I'm not going to be lovable.
Yeah, no one's going to love me. Yeah, that was really tough.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. How badly beat up was the rest of your body? Was it?
It was not great. Then? I broke my pelvis in a couple of places, and my kneecap was broke, and I was in a bad shape. I was really lucky. The place on my pelvis that was broken, it was like if it was a quarter of an inch over, I would have been in a body cast for 6 months, and that would have been really bad. But thank God it was in a spot where they literally couldn't do anything, and so I was able to just rest. And over a couple of month period, it closed up, and I was able to use crutches and other things to get around. But it was not a pleasurable experience recovering from that. So that was huge transition in my life, going from where everything was on cloud 9 to cloud -9.
And was it clear even in those days while you were in the hospital that your professional running career was over, or did you still refuse to accept that? Were you in denial?
Yeah,
about
I
that
didn't
at
accept that. I was like, I still thought, hey, I'm superhuman, right? I'm gonna recover from this, and I'm going to make it back. And man, I tried, and it was really interesting. Just from a physical perspective, I'd run almost every day for running 6 out of 7 days for probably 10 years, and my body
rest
had
day
never
to rebuild and recuperate.
Yeah, all of a sudden, boom, I didn't have anything for months and my body filled out. And I gained muscle and just that I'd never had in areas that I'd never, developed. And so when I started to make my comeback, my body was different.
Right.
And so
you had a man's body probably instead of a boy's
made
body
it tougher.
at that point.
Yeah, made it really tough. So I just couldn't ever end up being a runner again. And then I finally had to make the decision. It was one of those things where I had a full ride running scholarship, and there's only 12 scholarships for the entire track team, and track has 30 different events. So one person who's not even running and not even I'm taking up a whole 1/12 of the whole budget, and so I gave up my scholarship so that I could work, because if I couldn't work, here I was unable to run, but I couldn't work because if any money that I made would make I couldn't make any more money than whatever my scholarship was worth, whatever those weird rules back when I was in college.
Before there was NIL.
Yeah, before, exactly, man. I definitely missed out on that part of the equation, but yeah, that was an interesting part of the story.
So my runner and geeky part is curious. Like, what was your mile times when you?
I ended up the race that I won, the international race that I won. It was a 1,500 meters, and I ran a 3:48. It was it's equivalent to about a 4:05 mile, and
almost sub 4 miles.
I was like literally, I was for sure was going to be there. It's just I ran a 4:05 that season. That was my second year in college, and the coaches that I was working with, they'd actually trained. The reason why I went to that school was they trained professional runners at that school, and the progression I was on, they thought I was going to be a 3:48 miler. That's what they thought I was going to be. At least that was the potential that I had. And, it didn't quite work.
And what did you? Again, this is just a little bit my engineering geeking coming out, and also the fact that I'm not anywhere fast, but I'm a hobby runner for decades.
Awesome, I love it.
What was the fastest you ever got back to after the injury?
Well, I didn't ever even race again.
You never even competed
after that. Yeah, I couldn't race. I could train, and I trained, and I could run 20, 30 miles a week, but it was like every time I tried to do any more than that, my shins would flame up, and I just I said, my body was just different.
Yeah, and there's probably something a little bit micro different in your gait with the pelvis foundation stuff being a little bit shifted, and it was so frustrating because it was like, doing everything I could to lose weight because I wanted to get skinnier again, right? Because running, every little pound you have makes a big, big difference. And I was trying to lift weights to lose weight, and I was doing all these things, and it was just it was a constant struggle. And finally, it got to the point where it's just like, you know what? Yeah, God has a different plan for me. And was it with that much peace that you accepted that different identity, or was it with a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, or
it was not easy.
For sure.
I'll have to say it was not easy. I'd like to say it was, but it wasn't. It was one of those, just things where I couldn't be around running. I couldn't be around runners. I couldn't see a track. I couldn't be on a street and have cars coming from behind me. So I couldn't. Just all these things were traumatizing to me. That was just like, I had to step away from that. So I couldn't watch it on TV. I couldn't. It was just like I had to divorce myself of that part of my life in order to try to move on. And, it eventually got not as hard. And, now I don't have any of those issues, but,
How
for a
many
while
months or years was it?
Not good.
How many months or years was it? Like how long was it after?
I would say it was probably a good year that I struggled, right? From emotionally and physically and mentally.
Before you accepted that this was
before
not
I finally just said, okay, I quit trying to run again, and I'm just going to finish my schooling, and I'm going to dive into my professional career. And that was what I did. I did a darn good job, but I got a great job and got my degree and went into the corporate world, and I did what the world tells you to do. The world tells you to go work for a large corporation and buy a house with a white picket fence and have 3 kids. And I did everything that the world tells you to do, and I just chased everything to make more money and to buy a better house and get my kids in a better school. And I just did everything the world tells you to do, and I was living for me, and I wasn't living for anybody else. And it took the second major transition in life for me to really wake up again. And that was what I call the second truck that that hit me. That was later on.
So, a couple of things I'm curious about in that struggle of trying to get back to being a professional runner, right? For that year when you were pushing yourself. Looking back at it now, in that dark time, a suffering time, working hard to try to cling to or regain an old identity.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, Rob, what's one big learning that you had from that time?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing I learned from that was to accept the plan, right? That wasn't the plan, and that God, since I did survive that, I did I had a profound gratefulness that I was still here, because and I knew God had a plan for my life, even though I was a Christian. But I was one of the Christians that would go to church on Sunday, and I wouldn't act on it the whole week. And I go back.
So you weren't walking hourly.
I wasn't walking the walk, right?
Which is most people.
Right. Yeah. I enjoyed my church service, and I was in agreement. Yeah, everything's great. But I wouldn't read the Bible. I wouldn't actually live it out during the week. And so, but I did have this innate sense that God has a plan for me, because I didn't die that day. Right. So I'm here for a reason. Okay. And I struggled for a really long time, and I just thought, okay, it's to take care of my family, right? I'm gonna. I got married, and that's what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be a good dad, and I'm gonna go make a lot of money for my family, and I'm gonna give them the best life that I can give them, and that's where I just dove into that. But man, I wish I would have accepted the plan earlier and just said, okay. It is what it is, and now I have to just go make the best of it, because I don't think I did a great job of that during that period. So,
well, it's tough, and it's okay to push, right, for a certain some time, right? Yeah. It's okay, and at some point also, right, if God has a different plan for us, or life has a different plan for us, it's also the serenity prayer, right? Yeah. Accept what we can't change. And then change what we can.
That surrender was not easy for me.
Yeah, for sure. When your identity was completely tied up in that, and there's a certain bit about pushing back that's also can make you stronger to push against anything, like to use it as a workout in a sense, overall human workout. It
definitely has made me so much stronger as a man. That period of time going through that struggle, because it's like. And I identify with people who go through, transitions, right? And to go through struggles, it's like, I get it. I 100% get it. So people get mad at other people when they're having issues. And I was like, hey, let's have a little more. I have a lot more empathy, I think, for people, because I've been there, and I was like, okay, I get it. And then, the second truck that hit me and the other things that have happened in my life, I have lots of empathy for people struggling. I get it.
That makes sense. I'm curious. You said, after that point, you said, okay, my purpose now, God saved me for a reason, and my purpose now is to go be a good family man, good provider, take care of my family. Also, nothing wrong with that either, right? At that stage in your life, right? And how did you do in those roles? Like, so if that was, when you're now 22 or 24, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to focus on this. And you did that. You said you graduated, you got your corporate job.
For 20 plus years, I was in the corporate world, and I think I did well, right? I made good money, and I was able to provide well for my family. Have three, his, mine, and ours family. Have a wonderful, wonderful family and grandchildren, and things were going swimmingly well with that. And then the second truck hit me, and that when the pandemic hit, that was what I call the second truck, because it had a really similar impact on my life than the first one. Right, the first one, I was on the from an athletic perspective, I was on the path, and in my corporate career, I was on my path. Everything was going well, and then boom, the pandemic hit, and I was in corporate sales at that time, and I had to travel quite a bit because of my particular where I lived. I lived in Central Oregon, and so there's not a lot of businesses where I was. So in order for me to do my job, I had to actually fly to locations, and with the pandemic, there was no flying anywhere. So they downsized the sales organization, and that's the first time in my life that I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Right. And I didn't know what to do. And I had time. And then I was obviously very interested in health because of my past running experience. And one of the books I read when I was running that really impacted my life in a great way was Eat to Win. It was a book about nutrition, right? Whatever you're putting in your body actually becomes your body, and it helped fuel my body to be a better runner. And I believe that was a huge differentiator between me and a lot of my competition, is I knew how to fuel my body, and they didn't. And so when the pandemic hit, I immediately went to, let's go back to the basics. Let's make sure we take care of ourselves, and let's work on nutrition. Let's look at supplements. Let's figure out what's going on. And then I was researching supplements and supplementation. And then I saw this one doctor recommending vitamin D. And I'm like, well, yeah, vitamin D from the sun, vitamin D, but they were suing this doctor for billions of dollars. And I was like, this guy must be really bad, or maybe vitamin D is really bad, right? So
something really strange.
Yeah, really something strong, was really off. So I'm like, what's going on? And again, this is the first time in my life I'd had time to do research. So I literally started. I'd done research, but it was always about my particular job, right, or my client that I'm working with. Or I was really good at that, but I wasn't good at kind of looking at what's going on in the world. And this is the first time I was like looking at that. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at health and let's look at nutrition. Let's keep my family safe. They're suing this guy for billions of dollars. Man, maybe vitamin D is really bad. So I dug into vitamin D. Vitamin D is amazing. It's natural. Without vitamin D, we don't have oxygen. So it's like that's a basic human thing to life. So vitamin D is not bad. So maybe this doctor is really bad. So he must have lots of skeletons in his closet. So I dug into him, right? And everything I could find out about him was not bad. He was like an all-natural health practitioner that was really helping people. So I couldn't find anything in the closet.
The smoking gun,
Yeah, I was like, there's got to be something, right? But then I'm like, okay, then why? What's the motivation? Why are they suing this guy for billions of dollars? And oh my gosh, right? That's when the whole can of worms started opening up, when I looked at the motivation for why they were suing him, why they were trying to shut him up. And I dug into our medical system and how our medical system is set up, and I went all the way back to the early 1900s and how our medical schools were really taken over in the early 1900s by the Rockefellers. And so there's a report called the Flexner Report that love people to go research yourself about, because when you research what happened with the Flexner Report and how they used it for nefarious purposes, they end up taking over our medical schools. And the only way as a medical practitioner you could get a job is if you went into one of those medical schools. And and in those medical schools, they only taught pharmaceutical-based medication.
Right.
And
This is
so,
medicine
yeah,
1.0 or
they
maybe 2.0,
vilified
but yeah.
all natural health. They vilified
Yeah.
it and said you can't teach that, and you can't talk about natural health. It's only talk about this pharmaceuticals-based medication. It was all about money, because
Yeah.
they could patent those pharmaceutical medications, and man, they did a fabulous job. And then you see
Which
how
also
that
plays
morphed.
to our the general population's worst tendencies as well. If I can take a pill and fix
Right.
everything,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier than
It-
having the discipline to learn and eat correctly and exercise and do these other things. So
Exactly.
it fits the weaknesses of our human psychology as well. That we're
It does.
wanting to
It
have the
does.
easy way out,
Yeah.
right?
And it was, over those next 70, 80 years, 90, now 100 plus years, they've done a really amazing job of taking over a lot of our society. And those are things I didn't, I never spent time looking at all that. I was just so focused on my career and my family that I didn't care about any of that stuff.
Sure.
And then when I started uncovering the deception and the corruption in our media, and the information being controlled, and our medical information being controlled, that really pissed me off, because I was like, how can I 50 years of my life been so deceived, and how could I not see that? I'm like, man, we live in
and some aspects of that medicine have done tremendously well. I mean, acute care, right? If you're hit by a truck,
exactly,
right? Or if you have stage 5 cancer, right? I mean, you can prolong life pretty well with the acute care that we have between surgeries and drugs. But as far as creating vitality, creating health, preventing cancer, right? There's not a lot in our...
Yeah, we've done a really, really, really bad job at
we're
that,
going to, even 50, 60 years ago, we're going to stop fats because fats are bad for you. And instead we're going to fill you full of complex or simple carbohydrates and sugars and, everything that's low fat, but actually going to make you much more obese and higher cholesterol than it would be if you were eating a paleo diet. I'm so excited
about the Maha movement and what we're doing from a health perspective. Because if we finally got the pyramid back the way it's supposed to be, right? They just literally released the new food pyramid just a week or so ago, and it's like so awesome, because it's like finally we're putting the right food and whole foods in as part of the food pyramid, because they literally totally bastardized our food pyramid, and all the things they told us to eat were the wrong things to eat. And
right. Yeah. You can eat a vegan, 0 fat Oreo,
right.
and think it's
and
healthy
because it's good for you. Right.
Yeah. Right. And that's actually going to kill you. Who would you, from the research and stuff that you've done? I mean, I've got some names in my head of people that I look to in this space today, but who would you say is one of the leading researchers or authority as far as holistic health today that you're learning a lot from or doing a lot with?
Yeah, there's a lot of them now that I've learned from, which is pretty exciting. But that's the thing, is I love to help people understand, right? Is you have to go back and look at how our information is being controlled. Because if you don't understand that, then you won't be looking at the right areas. Because the problem is, you can go look in the mainstream media, and you'll find that the science has controlled, the doctors are controlled, all the information that you're going to go do research on is controlled. So you have to back up, and you have to look for the right sources. And so that's been very impactful for me, is to realize that our information has been controlled, and then to be able to, I don't believe anything anybody tells me anymore especially about health or just almost anything. It's because I want to go look at that information, and I look at all sides of the argument. And I'll look at the right, the left, the up, the down, the middle. I don't care what it is. I'll listen, but then I'm going to go start checking against my resources. And after you do this over years, you start finding resources that you can see that are not tainted. There's no motivation for them to taint that information. And so then you can start bouncing that off of others. So to answer your question, there are a couple of people that I do love to follow that I think are very honest about the health and all natural way of living. Dr. Dan Pompa is one. Gary Brecka is also very, very good. The Ultimate Human, in the Ultimate Human podcast, and things that they're doing. Dr. Brian Ardis is another amazing all natural health practitioner who's really done just a lot of research, right? And they do a lot of research to uncover what's happening. And so I follow people who really dig in and try to do their own research, because I believe that much more than I believe, just the general science anymore. Because when you see how it's controlled, it's like, oh my gosh, so they paid for that. They paid for that
framework.
Science.
The whole framework with Medicine 2.0. I mean, it's good at producing acute need drugs, right? Or short-term acute need drugs. But the whole framework that nothing can be considered medicine unless it passes a double-blind controlled study and counters for the placebo effect. Like, how do you even put exercise in that?
Right.
It's very difficult, because how do you control a double blind and make, how do you control eating healthy? How do you control meditation? How do you control having a purpose that lines up with what God put in you to do? Right. I mean, it's very difficult. And that's the limit of the Medicine 2.0.
Yeah,
but I think of two doctors that have meant a lot to me in this space is Peter Attia and Dr. Mark Hyman.
Yes,
I don't know if you've ever read their stuff or listened to them.
Are great. Yeah.
But I think this, and then I lived in China for a while. There is a whole nother, there's two actually similar different schools of medicine, Ayurvedic and Chinese, that have been around for 3,000 to 5,000 years.
Right.
That don't fit it at all into Western medicine.
They don't.
But yet before we introduced our wonderful SAD diet to them, the standard American diet, was overall those cultures, considering apples to apples, were a lot healthier.
Yeah.
Cultures 100%. As a whole than what we had in America. So I think there is a lot to that. And I appreciate those resources. So what was your third truck, Rob?
Yeah.
What was your third big transition?
The second truck with the pandemic, and that got me totally into all that.
So you had time for the first time in your life to actually slow down and think. And you maybe, I'm putting some words in your mouth that are my words, but tell me if they're right or not. Maybe weren't, for a minute, you could breathe and didn't have to play Superman.
Right.
So you weren't just going, whether it was running or your corporate world, you'd been just sort of going, focused, laser focus on sort of one task. And now you have a little bit of chance to breathe. You're starting to do research. And then the third truck comes along. Yeah.
So I was digging into health, right? And that's where I did two things happened during that period that were really impactful. One is I started reading the Bible every day. So I was really just enchanted with the world. And so I was like, okay, I've been a Christian my entire life, but I've never read the Bible, right? So I was like, is this thing true? And so I did a lot of research on is the Bible true? I did archaeology, evidence, and looked at that. I looked at the textual criticism of the Bible, and I looked at prophetic evidence of the Bible. And my gosh, as you dig in and do research on what is this thing true, it's undeniable that it's like the most authenticated book ever in existence. And so it's like, okay, if it is an actual real document, then maybe I should read it. And so I actually did read the whole thing a number of times now, and I just developed a personal relationship with God during that period. So that was hugely impactful. And then I just have been using that relationship as like, Lord, guide me, help me understand what to do. And so I've been developing health solutions for people because of that process, right? I was like, I know that this is a bad situation where our medical system is messed up. How can I help the world? What can one little guy do to help the world? So I dove into frequency medicine, and that was really exciting. There's some really exciting stuff that we're doing and just is being done in the world. And then I started looking at just all natural health supplements and how can I create these solutions that are really going to help people. And I'm just so excited about the products that I'm helping people with, because they're really impactful and they help people at the core. So that's kind of fun. But then the third truck.
Can I now you've taken down another angle that I'd like to ask a question about. In your research, Rob, I mean, there is so much, of course, that is done by physical. There's so much, and the physical has a lot of aspects: sleep and exercise and food, sunlight, right? Supplements. Have you also, during this research, looked into any about the emotional or mental side as well?
Yes. Yeah, the mind is so fun. It's so powerful. I've done, through my health journeys, a lot of, NET, neural emotional transit. I can't even remember the name of the acronym, but the NET process is just amazing. These amazing health practitioners who are
is
just,
NET, is that, I'm not familiar with the acronym. Is that EMDR, like this balancing from the left and the right side of the brain, or is it something else?
Neural emotional trauma, maybe is the name. I apologize. I don't know the term.
No, it's okay.
It's just bad because I literally just did a podcast 2 weeks ago with an amazing NET practitioner, and he's just incredible with the brain and with the mind and the emotion and he can literally clear things from your childhood. It's something that happened in your childhood that's been blocking you and your body's blocking something, but it literally comes from a childhood experience. And then when you unblock that, you progress forward in an amazing way. And it can help with chronic health issues and pain, and has nothing to do with normal medication, right? Yeah. So you start learning that is actually real, and that's true, and that does happen, and it's verifiable.
Absolutely.
And absolutely incredible. So I
wanted to bring that in because it's such an important aspect of it. And you talked about childhood experiences. There's a book by Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris called The Deepest Well, which is about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and correlating. Basically, what she did the research, the meta research, pulling together a whole bunch of other studies and looking at the ACEs that people had that were involved.
Oh, awesome! And
realized there's like a correlation to strokes. If you had, and I don't remember the number, but there's 10 ACEs total. If you had, I'm going to pick it out, and I could be wrong, but it's with 3 or 5 or 7. If you had a certain number of these ACEs, it correlates exactly. The R value is just the same for a stroke as if you smoke 2 packs a day your whole life.
Wow, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this thing with ACEs, it drives physical health just as strongly as the normal physical things that we all know about, but the people are not educated about the ACEs. And then I know from my personal experience too, and I'm not sure what NET is, but I'll make one more plug here for The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
The book, which is, a great summary of the state of psychological healing and science today, the whole, covering everything. The first half reads like a textbook. Second half is a lot of stories and very interesting. So you got to stick with the first half. But through that, both my daughter and I had the privilege this year of doing neurofeedback therapy.
Oh, awesome.
And I mean, I don't pretend to know how everything works. I've had Dr. Ellen Langor on this podcast, who is called the Mother of Mindfulness, and she's done all kinds of studies about the placebo effect and counterclockwise experiments. She's head of psychology at Harvard. So I also I'm not blind to the fact that I can just tell myself something's going to work and then it makes it work.
Right.
But that all being said, there were huge shifts in brain function, and I didn't ever look at my daughter's maps afterwards. I looked at them before the brain function. I did not look at him. I didn't even look at him afterward. But the behavior shift in her was unbelievable. And she's adopted, so she has baked in automatically a lot of trauma.
Oh, right.
But she shifted from 2 medications and narcolepsy and depression, not being able to sleep at night and sleeping all day and all these things, and, depressed, to full social life, good grade. I mean, she's always had good grades, but like living a very vibrant, full life. And she said, I don't know, it must have been that voodoo stuff, that neurofeedback, right? That's all she could, she's like, because that's the only thing I can point to. For myself, I also shifted dramatically. And I don't know how much of it was the neurofeedback, because I went and hiked the AT for 2 weeks in that time, like in the middle of my neurofeedback. And they were super excited to measure my brain right when I got back from the trail to see how much it shifted.
Oh, that's really cool.
Just from the trail. And it shifted. There's 8 measuring points for me. 6 of them were significantly malfunctioning, significantly out of phase, out of function.
Wow.
When I went to the trail, when I came back, 1 was barely out. And the rest were
nice.
Completely in. So
again,
I
need to go there.
That's connecting with God. But I went ahead and finished. And some things that with my engineering mind, I didn't give much credence to, like red light therapy.
Oh, right.
Because there's not a double blind study that shows that it's effective. So because, compared to, so I'm like, I can tell you that was one of the things I recommend. And when I did that a few times, when I really needed to feel different, and this isn't even a shoulder strain or a rotator cuff or something, this is in my brain, right? Did red light therapy and shifted in 10 minutes how I was feeling. I don't pretend to understand everything, but there's some things out there that make a huge difference for your physical health because of your mental health.
That's right.
And if we don't, and I know this from my own experience, I'm going to put one more plug in here. If we don't address the trauma, the parts of us that are traumatized and learn to survive at that age, to survive that trauma with a behavior that was good and necessary at that point because it was how to literally survive. That part of us is still like, if I'm an emotional eater, if I don't address that part of me of why I'm doing the emotional eating,
right,
there's no amount of willpower or knowledge that's going to overcome that. That part of me is in survival mode and still trying to do what it thinks it needs to do to survive. And I came to this research body after I started using it on myself after years of work in a whole bunch of different areas. But there's a guy that actually leads that whole school, Dr. Richard Schwartz, internal family systems, where he talks about all these different parts of us that sort of fractured off at different times because of trauma.
Oh, wow.
And how they still control our behavior and how to address them instead of resist them or push back against them, to honor them, see what their purpose is, and help them to heal and grow. And I've been on that path also for, 3 to 5 years, almost on a daily basis, doing it myself as part of my morning spiritual practices.
That's awesome.
And that also makes a huge difference. So I wanted to bring, and please comment anything else that you have on this.
But I just wanted to finish like that NET thing I was telling you. Yes. I couldn't remember what it is. I looked it up. It's a neuro-emotional technique. And what it means is a holistic mind-body therapeutic approach developed in the 80s. And it really helps resolve unresolved emotional stress patterns, sometimes called neuro-emotional complexes, that are stored in the nervous system and manifest both emotionally and physically. And so that is another name for these childhood trauma pieces that fracture off as part of us.
Right. So you were using a clinical
term for
a clinical clinical and external, where I'm just doing it, working with myself, and engaging those parts of myself.
That is so cool.
In a conversation.
And then the other thing you mentioned too, that is, I think, super impactful, is red light therapy. So I was telling you, I was doing frequency research, right, on just frequencies. And another big thing I started doing research on was red light. And it's so, in fact, I'm literally a few weeks away from releasing a book. It's called Light Code. And Light Code is going to, one of the 4 pillars that I'm focusing on is red light, and how impactful that is on the mitochondrial process within the body. And so not only at the surface level of the skin, but if you get the near infrared, it goes deep into the body tissue and really repairs things deep within the body. And so you combine light therapy with some of the frequency techniques and therapies, and it's just incredible what we can do to the human body. And so I'm just having a really incredible blast with that, because it's helping people in such dramatic ways that's what I have fun doing. Is like, oh my gosh, yes, you've been in chronic pain for a really long time. That sucks. Right. I get it. So let's help you with that. Right. And then there's so many things that I can do to help people, that get them off of, big pharma drugs, and onto natural solutions, using some of these techniques like the red light therapy and some of our frequency solutions. And we're doing this stuff with molecular hydrogen, which molecular hydrogen goes in and acts as a master antioxidant in the bloodstream. So it helps literally within the blood. It helps removing things. So you combine red light therapy with frequency therapy and then stuff within your bloodstream, and my gosh, you're helping your body in a really, really dramatic way. So anyway, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And I think about, there's a lot of studies that show that just simply 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week outside, as simple as going for a walk outside, is more effective against all the top 10 killers, both from physical health, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, but also mental health, deaths of despair, right? Than anything else out there. just that one single thing. Now, the difficult thing is, can we make ourselves do it? A doctor can prescribe that, but most of them don't. And it's much more difficult than popping a pill to get in the habit of doing that, right? But if we do, that's what happens. And I can tell you in my experience on the AT, how many people that I met that were through hikers, because I started the north and I was just doing 2 weeks in the 100-mile wilderness coming down through from the top of the trail in Maine. And then it was in September. So a lot of people were finishing through hikes coming from the south.
Oh,
and those are the only people I was meeting. I just talked to them a couple minutes on the way, but maybe 20 I connected with out of all the people. It's this camp at the same place at night or something. But the number of people that said, yeah, since I've started the trail, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, I've left so much behind.
That's
extra weight,
right?
Emotional baggage, but also the number of people that said I was on X number of medications when I started the trail, and today I'm not.
I love it.
I just kept walking, and maybe I ran out by mistake or something, and I just noticed that I just felt fine.
That's amazing.
Right?
I love it. I love it. That's one of the things that got me so interested in health too, is what I was doing the research, all those research hours that I was spending. Found that the average senior today is taking 15 different prescription medications in a year, 15, right?
Yeah, which at some point in there, you're taking a medication to counteract the effects of some other medication.
100%, 100%, right? Every single one of them has a side effect. So that's going to cause something somewhere else. And then you go, and all those practitioners we see are specialized, right? So you'll go see a specialist in this, and he's going to give you the pill to help with that symptom, but it's going to cause something else. And so it's just a snowball effect. It's just a mess, right? So we just need to get away from that. We need to get people off of big pharma drugs. God made this body so incredibly complex, and it to heal itself. Our body's healed itself if we give it the right makeup, right? We give it the right setup, we give it the right nutrients, and man, your body can do incredible things. So and your mind is a big part of your body, right?
Absolutely.
God designed
and
this
vice
mind.
versa. I mean, vice versa. Like I notice if I put alcohol and sugar into this body, it pollutes my mind.
Yeah.
Right. That's also a really great trigger for depression for me, is if I put alcohol and sugar into here.
Wow, makes sense. Makes
like
total
if I do
sense.
Dr. Hyman's diet, this 10-day detox, if I do that for 10 or 15 or 20 days, I feel, no matter what else is going on in my life, emotionally, mentally, I feel really great.
I love it.
So it's all connected together. Absolutely.
Yep.
And it's really important that we start to take responsibility for ourselves, for this amazing machine, this temple, right?
Yep.
And it starts with, for me, it has 4 pillars, right? Movement, rest, diet, and mental health. Are you doing something to exercise your mind as well?
Right.
To meditate, to focus on wisdom literature, right? To have some time where this thing is not just allowed to free chatter the whole time, or being continually distracted by screens or by some other addiction. If you do those 4 things, right, life can really be beautiful, for sure.
It can be beautiful. And that's fun, is I love to give people hope, right? Because it's like, hey, if you have breath in your lungs today, God has a plan for your life. Right. So it's like, it doesn't matter how negative things are or how bad you feel things are, you have breath in your lungs, there's still a reason why you're here. Right. And so once you start having hope, and when you give someone hope, then they have a reason to live, right? And they have a reason to understand and a reason to investigate. And once you have hope, nothing can take that away. And it doesn't matter what happens to your life. If you have hope, then you can go to the next step. You can go to the next day. You continue to progress. And then, man, you start taking care of this temple in the way that God designed it. And it's just, your life just transforms in a huge way. So I love trying to help people through that process.
Oh, that's awesome. And I do want to give kudos to the medical profession moving in the right direction. At least we have functional medicine now. At least we have people looking at health span, not just lifespan. Right. Because I have no desire to sit in a wheelchair or be in bed for the last 20 years of my life, which is sort of what we've done
doesn't
with
sound fun
acute
at all.
medicine. Yeah. But I'm adventurous, and I am not, and I'm clumsy. I'll put it that way. So I've broken a lot of bones my whole life. So I've dealt with orthopedic surgeons a lot. First one, 6 years old. last one last year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, but the thing that this comes back to a comment that you made earlier about our bodies being able to heal themselves, right?
Yeah.
Even an orthopedic surgeon, which in my younger years, up until at least through my 20s, I always felt like I was the nail because they had a hammer, right? If I went and saw an orthopedic surgeon and I had a broken bone, oh, we'll do surgery on that and we'll fix it.
Right.
And I remember when I was 6, they wanted to do surgery on me. My parents said no. When I was 12, they really, really wanted to do surgery. My parents said no.
Thank goodness for your parents. That's awesome. Yeah. Good for them.
And then when I broke this shoulder in a mountain bike crash 5 years ago, I broke the humerus in 4 places.
Oh man!
Or four pieces. So 3 breaks, 4 pieces.
Yikes!
I broke the head off and then broke the head into 3 pieces with the smash that I did.
Ouch!
So I mean, incredibly painful. The most painful break I've ever had because it's only one bone in that space. So even just moving a little finger, it's grated right when I was sitting there on the side of the mountain bike trail. My point is though, I went to see the ER doc. They're going to do surgery tomorrow. Blah blah blah. We got to make 100 X-rays. I'm like, no, we don't. If they're going to do surgery anyway, and you're not doing it, let's let the experts make the X-rays. Because it hurt so bad the way they were trying to X-ray it. But when I went to see the 2 specialists, both of them, in slightly different words, orthopedic surgeons, said, it's not my job to heal your body. It's my job to make sure your body is in a position to heal itself.
There you go. Yeah.
Orthopedic surgeons, right? And so even though I had one of the pieces of bone was floating out, I don't know if it was 12 or 13 millimeters out of place.
Wow, that's a long way.
They said, I don't think we need to do surgery. And doing surgery on that shoulder, we can put all the bones back in place, but the recovery from the surgery is going to be a lot harder than recovery from the broken bone if it can heal itself. So let's X-ray every week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week to begin with, see if it's pulling itself back in, still being responsible. And they had me start doing physical therapy on day 1, which was excruciating.
Ouch.
Right? Because it needed to help, just letting it hang down and do shoulders, circles with momentum. But I started hiking. I quit running and riding my mountain bike but I put it in the brace and I went hiking with a pole. So if I slipped, I could catch myself with my left hand. But I kept moving my body, eating well. Sleeping was difficult, but I was doing the best I can with sleeping and take just enough pain medicine just to be able to sleep. And I never had surgery. Now, one of them is still out by 2 or 3 millimeters. So I'm missing like 10 degrees of motion, but I was able to do a full Ironman after that. So I'm swimming, 2.4 miles, but it was such a shift and it's something I was grateful for. So even in sort of all the negative stuff about medicine, the early phase medicine 1.0, medicine 2.0, it is shifting. Right?
It is. And I want to make sure people don't misunderstand my interpretation of the medical cartel. All right. It is really, really bad, but the people in the medical system are not bad, right? The doctors and nurses and practitioners, most of them go in with the right heart, right?
They want to help people.
They want to help people. But the way our system is set up, it just sets them up for failure because they
makes
have
it quite
to be specialized in order for you to do your job. And then, then they just don't give them enough time for each patient. And so they don't have time to do the things that they should do. And, so it's not their fault. So, but you're right. I think there are a ton of people waking up to this problem, and our big pharma owns and controls way too much of our society. And we need to look at this human body as a holistic being to get healthy, because there's so many chronic diseases that can be solved just by looking at what's the cause of the chronic problem, not the symptom. Right. And if we can go back and look at the causation, and man, there are a lot of people that are starting to help with that. So I'm super motivated and excited about that transition, and want to support that in any way I can. So
no, that's beautiful. And I'll say there's so much noise about food as well, and what's healthy food, and there's all these different types of diets that get all these different types of results and so forth. The one I like the best is Michael Pollan. He wrote a book. I think it's called What to Eat. Is the title of the book. But this is how he sums it up. It's one sentence. He says, eat food, mostly vegetables and not too much.
There you go.
And I'm going to say two more sentences about this. He defines food as something with less than 5 ingredients where you know where all of them come from and what they are, and you could explain them to your grandmother.
That's fantastic.
So that's how he defines food.
Fantastic.
So I just, in general, without getting more complicated than that, if you're not sure what to eat, food, not chemicals.
Right? That's like,
right? Food.
Exactly. Food, but that's the problem.
Mostly vegetables. Don't worry about what the rest of it is that you eat, but mostly vegetables and not too much. Right.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I think that's so good because the answer your question a long time ago was the third truck, right?
Yes.
And my third truck was cancer. And so I literally am battling stage 3 melanoma right now. But I'm winning that battle.
Melanoma is skin cancer?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it's really strange. I got melanoma in my ankle, so it wasn't from sun exposure at all. But there's lots of reasons you can get melanoma. As I found out, I've been an expert in it now. But it's just amazing. The reason why I went there was the food conversation because, man, I have learned a ton about diet, right? Like, okay, what happened? Why did I get cancer in the first place? And then how do I survive through this? How do I make sure that I win this battle? Because I was not going to lose this battle. And so I know a lot of people have won the battle. So I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. And so I dug in. I did anything and everything I could to figure out what caused where I was and to stop my progression from, I ended up with stage 3. That's really scary. Melanoma is one of the most aggressive ones that when it gets into your lymph nodes, it will spread really, really fast and you typically die relatively quickly. And so I'm 14 months into this process. So I've stopped the spread and all my tumors have shrunk 50%. So it's like I'm winning the battle and I figured it out. Awesome. But man, it was a process, right? Food was very important. Diet was very important. Supplementation was very important. And so I went through this whole holistic, and I looked at the standard of care, right? In the United States is like, they have a specific way that they treat cancer. It's really tragic in the respect, in my opinion, how the United States deals with it because it's way too generalized and generic for cancers. And, there's lots of remedies and lots of solutions that people outside of our country are open to helping people with and are doing that just people in the United States, our medical system won't allow. So that's really, really, really frustrating to me. Then I'm just excited the more I learn that, geez, I think that's one of the reasons why God has me on this earth is to help people with their health and their faith. That's why I call myself an AI wellness futurist. Is I love AI. I love technology. I love automation. I just been a technology geek because I love it. But the same point, garbage in, garbage out, right? You put in garbage research into a tool, you're going to get garbage information back out of that tool.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm having so much fun with helping people look at, hey, where did the information what information did they get it trained on? And then if the information is trained on bad scientific research, then the information you're going to get from it is bad. So I'm just having a blast trying to help people navigate this. It's like, let's look at the way God made our bodies and let's figure out ways where we can help it and get it to the point where it can start doing what God designed. It will heal itself if we give it the right thing. So that's what I had to physically do to my body. Is like, okay, what's caused for me to get it, and then how do I stop the progression of this thing that is in my body? And so I went down deep into all different modalities and all different types of things, and the nutrition was a really, really big part of the equation. So ended up finding out that my specific version of, I've got a BRAF mutation. So I did the genetic makeup of my cancer, and I was doing a keto diet because a lot of research on the keto diet for cancer. And so I immediately started the keto diet. But then funny enough, for 6 months, I was doing that diet, and I found out after 6 months that my cancer has a BRAF mutation, which means when I did the research on what that mutation is, it's like, oh, crap. I found out that my that mutation actually feeds off of not only glucose, but it also will feed off of saturated fat.
Right.
So here I am on a keto diet with high fats because I don't care about my fats because it's in my keto diet, right? So I love, ribeyes, for example. It's like, oh my gosh, give me the ribeye, right? And but I'm
that's
just
actually
feeding my body
cancer
with a ton of saturated fat, and unbeknownst to me, I thought I was doing the right thing, and I'm feeding my cancer with what it needs to grow. And so as you look at fighting cancer, is like one of the smartest things to do is figure out a way to starve it, right? If you can get it to not give the nutrients it needs to grow, then it can't grow within the body, and then you get your immune system to attack what's there. And that's what I've been able to do with my body is get my immune system so strong that it's actually fighting the cancer now, so it doesn't have the chance to go anywhere else, and then it's reducing it. But man, you gotta go find out what the cause of yours is, because everybody's is different. And then there's hundreds of different types of cancers. So you have to find out what your specific cancer is. And then even my version of cancer has different mutations on it, right? So I had to find out what that was and how does it feed? How does it like to live? And I'm not going to give it a chance to. So anyway, that was where I've been with my third major truck was that. And I'm just using all this information I'm gathering to try to help the world, because I'm developing this light code, which is the light therapy and frequency therapy and the molecular hydrogen component and the faith component. Those four pillars are a solution that I think is going to help society in a major way. And I'm developing a community I call Biohackingville, that I want to have all this information there. So man, if you get cancer, I'm having an integrative oncology neighborhood where it's like there's a ton of resources for you. Let's go find it. You mentioned a couple of names of people that I want to make sure I have the research that they have in there.
Have it linked up. Yeah.
I want to have go look.
And there's a third one that I'll give you. The name's escaping me right now, but it's a doctor medically supervised water only fasting.
Okay. Yep.
In California, as a clinic he's been running for 25 years.
All right, I would love you to get me that information.
I'll try to find it. I'll try to find
part
it.
Of
because
what
he said the same thing. He said a medically supervised fast. It's amazing. Water only fast. Where you're completely resting and practicing and emotional cleansing as well at the same time. But it specifically for cancer, because it starves it, and the body knows to shut off the support to that first.
Right.
And he's had very good success with that. I'll try to find that and get that.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love it, because I'm literally developing a fasting app right now that is just to let people track what a fast. And then there's lots of different types of fasts. Like this is one you're mentioning is a water only fast, but there's other different types.
Yeah, and intermittent fasting, or
intermittent fasting
on a daily basis, or something on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, and whether it's
and
liquid only or 0 calories.
Tools to figure it out, right? Because it can get complex and it can get hard to follow. And so I'm just trying to create a simple app that just lets you track it easy, and then say, okay, I started my fast tonight. I ate, last time I ate was at this time. And so if I'm doing intermittent fasting, then I know X number of hours I can actually eat again, and allow you to track it and just give people tools to do these things that are so impactfully helpful with their health. So
yeah, no, it really makes sense. And I guess the other one I'd plug on there is, Dr. Ellen Langer. She's done so many studies that show the power of the mind around health, and how we talk to ourselves. Like she talks about that, if that the test, the positive test that you have that shows you have a certain disease, is only that moment in time,
right?
And it doesn't mean you have it forever, and it's and so forth. And she said, one of her pet peeves is that her mother died of cancer. And she said, I have the sense that if they told her that when she went into remission that she was actually cancer free, that she was cured of cancer. I mean, yes, maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't. But to say, oh, you're in remission, what does that automatically say? It's going to come back.
Right.
And when we plug something into our mind, then we create that. And she has all these studies, where awesome. She shows this in ways that blow my mind, just without people even know they're being subject of a study. What the circumstances of the study the mindset that the circumstances of the study create physiological results.
That's
like
amazing. That's amazing.
So she's also a great resource for that.
Yeah.
Her early book that I loved is called Mindfulness. And I'll plug that in.
I want to get all of these resources because that's what I'd love, right? It's like there's so much good information out there and people just have a hard time finding it. So that's what Biohackingville is going to be, right? It's just going to be a repository of this helpful information that's going to have resources for you. And so you want to go find out information about fasting. There's going to be a ton of stuff about fasting. You want to look up red light therapy. There's going to be a ton of information about red light therapy, right?
Awesome.
Well, so that's what I really want to provide is just this all natural health repository of data for people. And then have a community who can talk about it, right? And
absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I have two more questions for you, Rob. And we could talk all day. This stuff's fascinating.
I know this is fascinating.
Really passionate about it myself, as you can tell. But two more questions. If somebody is going through one of these trucks that hit you, if someone's going through this big transition, whether it's related to identity, whether it's related to health, or you sort of had an identity. I'm going to call it identity strike twice, right? Like once when you were a professional runner, and then once when you were this corporate guy, and then that all of a sudden stopped.
Yeah.
But from what comes to you right now, if somebody's going through one of these really difficult or impactful transitions or a health scare, whatever it is, what's one tool that you would recommend that they, can hit pause on this podcast right now and take the first step toward making the most of this transition?
Yeah.
Instead of being overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. Awesome question. I would say prayer. 100%. That's the first thing I'm going to go to is prayer, because prayer does a number of things. One, it gets you to stop and think, right? Yeah. And it gets you to be outside of yourself. It's like you're praying I pray to God. You may pray to somebody else or pray to something, right? But if you get out of your head and you start actually asking for help and talking to in my case, I talk to God, right? And when I do pray, that I thank Him for my life and what I have, and I go with Thanksgiving, and then ask for help and ask for guidance and ask for knowledge. And my gosh, it's amazing what will happen during that period, because you kind of get outside of woe is me and
that's right,
and all this negative me, and you get outside of that and you start thinking, okay, there is a God, and God can help me, and God, I really need your help right now. Right. And so help me understand what to do and how to do and why to do. And it gives you that pause where your mind can think, and you can get outside of yourself and you can start thinking about others. And then you go in with gratitude, right? Thank you for my life. Thank you for the breath I have in my lungs. And you start going at life with, oh my gosh, everything's bad for me and everything's bad. You get out of me, and you start thinking gratitude for what I do actually have. Then your mind changes. Yes, it just does that transition. So that would be my first thing is
no, it's interesting, and I love that. Like, even if you don't call it prayer, if you called it becoming the observer, or talk like Eckhart Tolle talks, or Michael Singer.
Right.
All those things are still the same. So that's one aspect that it'll help heal your mind, shift your perspective, become the observer, step back from things that are negative so you're not as overwhelmed by them, have gratitude, which is, proven in many medical studies also to make a big difference. Also, I'm going to add to this, it's also one that is shown in a double-blind study to make a difference. People that had people pray for them in hospitals that didn't even know they were being prayed for recovered faster than those that didn't. And there's big enough studies. So
absolutely real. And
so there's exactly. So there's whatever your belief is or isn't belief, there's something, whether it's just the attention from another human being coming toward you without you even knowing it, or whether it's God intervening. It actually, there's praying for yourself and that process that shifts your mindset. And we've seen in studies, and it's interesting in that particular study that I read about, and something is ubiquitous. It was in Reader's Digest years ago.
Oh, I love it.
Even in that study, they also showed, this was an interesting differentiation. There was no difference in the recovery times based on whether people knew they were being prayed for or not. There was no difference. But the type of prayer, this is very interesting. The type of prayer, people that prayed for like when the people who were praying for them, as a group of nuns that were praying for people, when they knew the specific problem and they were praying for God to cure that specific problem, the recovery was still much better than the control group, but it was not as fast as the one where the nuns just prayed for God's will to be done toward that person.
That's interesting.
So
that's really interesting.
Right? Okay, that's a great tool, and it's great because also anybody can do it. It doesn't require anything, right? It doesn't require internet connection, doesn't require money. Spend some time, come in gratitude, pray, observe what's going on with you, so forth. I really like that. So thank you, Rob, for that. The last one is just where can people connect with you? If they want to connect and find out more about your research or join this community, where's the best place to connect with you, Rob?
Yeah, so it's biohackingville.com is the platform I'm putting together. It's still in its nascent beginnings, but I'm super excited about.
But do you have an email there, or is there a place that people want to reach out to you?
I'm going to be an active participant there, so I'll be very easy to find in Biohackingville. And then ExodusStrong.com is my company, and that's where we put together the light codes. We have red light therapy products that are incredible, a mat, and it comes with a frequency component, which is really differentiates it from any other red light products. We have a face mask and a little wand that's amazing, that really helping people with red light. But then it also includes that frequency, and then there's the supplement that has molecular hydrogen in it that really helps clean out the blood inside the body and give you the right nutrients you need. So we're really helping you and we have a prayer guide that goes with every single one of our products. So we literally have this prayer guide that has every day we want you to say intention. So your mind is intending something, and then you're saying it out loud. There's power in the tongue, so you're declaring it, and then you're saying an actual prayer and a Bible verse. And so when you combine those three, the intention, the Bible verse, and the prayer, with it verbally, you're really making a difference, and you're combining the mind, body, and spirit into your health. And when you combine those modalities I was talking about with the prayer component, it really, really dramatically helps people with the resolution of their health issue. So super excited about that.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you for joining us today and being so passionate about sharing your story and being so passionate about helping others in the second half, which is really a lot about what my life's about and this podcast is how to help people make the most of this big transitions around midlife. And there's a lot of them that have to do with identity, the theme we had today, as well as health and purpose going forward. So I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed this conversation, even much more than I thought I would, quite frankly.
I knew we were going to have fun when we talked the last time. So
it's been really amazing. Really
Thank
enjoyable.
You for what you're doing, Art. I really appreciate you and excited what you're doing to help people. And let's just make this play. If we impacted one person today, I'm super duper excited. I'm praying that so one person listens to some of the things we talked about today and goes and makes a little bit of difference. Because man, if we can get people off of the couch and get well and get healthy, and we can all go help make this world a little bit better place, then that's the place that's a world I want to live in.
Absolutely. I was with the Richard Rohr not too long ago in New Mexico, and he's talking about that. And I was reading this in Father Greg Boyle's book to the founder of Homeboys Industries, the gang rehabilitation
awesome
service in East LA. But talking about that, God is love and joy, and how he gets to experience love and joy is through us.
Yeah.
So maybe our main job is to enjoy the life that we're given. Amen. Be in connection with others, be in communion, be in kinship, especially with people on the margins of society, from the message I get from the Bible and from these two guys. But I think about that sometimes, when I've been challenged about thinking, I need to produce, or I need to be productive, or I need to accomplish or achieve. Maybe that's not why we're here.
Right.
Maybe it's simply to enjoy. Right?
I love it.
And
that's a fantastic attitude.
So, and we know that we know that happier people are healthier, for sure.
Amen.
Right, all the way around. So, good stuff, Rob. Thank you so much for sharing so openly with us today, and I look forward to being in touch soon.
I appreciate it. God bless you, Art.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.